My name's Danny Fenton and I'm an aeromodeller and an engineer. Join me on a fascinating journey where I show you some of the techniques used in scale aeromodelling. So hello again modellers, we're back in the workshop. Today I'm just going to take a look at sanding the fuselage down and I'm going to show you how it's ended up. As you can see, once the glass coat was sanded just roughly smooth to get the where the cloth overlapped, get rid of those sort of bits. And then I sprayed a coat of high build primer on there. And you can see what we've got. The glass is actually more or less filled, but there are small areas, in fact sometimes larger areas like here, where you can see the weave of the cloth. And there's even areas, oh, that's going to focus like this, where you can see the weave of the cloth. Come on, focus. Pull back a bit, see if that helps. So you can see the weave of the cloth, but you can also see there was a slight gap in the planking. So there's a hole right through to the wood underneath, and we can't do anything like sand wet and dry with that because we'll put water inside and we don't want water swelling up the grain of the wood. There's a few other areas that have a little split just there, and there's a few areas that are a bit thin and you can see the grain of the cloth a little bit. So what I do with these, I mean, people will say, oh well, put flow coat on, you know, which is where you just lay a coat of resin straight on top of this and then you sand that down. But you're actually adding a lot of weight where 95% of this is sealed and ready to go. It's just these few areas. So the way I address these is a product. Oops, turn it the right way up. Which is an acryl red putty. Now I thought it was a cellulose, but it actually says acryl. But then on the label it says it's a nitrocellulose. So nitrocellulose. So there you go. Make your mind up. Pays your choice. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually just going to put a little tiny smear of red putty in these gaps, and anywhere I can see grain I'm going to treat it now before I give this a quick sand down. So I'm just going to show you this quick bit through here. There's quite a bit of weave showing through there, and this bit here where there's actually a gap in the wood. So one of the tools I use for this is a 3M squeegee, and this is, I think, half of a squeegee. I think it's about that big normally when you get it, and I must have cut it in half. But this is, believe it or not, one of the most useful tools when it comes to finishing that I've got in my arsenal. And it's rubber, so it's not really flexible, but it is flexible. It's 1/4 inch thick rubber. But if you take a piece of wet and dry and just wrap it around that, you can use quite a small piece, and then you can wet and dry and get a nice circular motion going. And it just bends a little bit to the shape, but otherwise it gives you a nice flat area of pressure down onto it, and it cuts through it really nicely. But in this instance I'm going to use the squeegee for its other use, and that is to put stopper down. Now this red stopper, you really must only use a really tiny thin smear of the stuff. And that's about enough to fill that for now. Okay, so it is really thin, and you'll find that dries almost instantly. So what you're actually doing is just scraping it into any of the low sections that you can see. And there'll be loads. You can end up with the whole side of the fuselage being covered in smears of red stopper. Doesn't matter. It's what it's for. And it'll nearly all get sanded off again when we're done. As will most of this grey that's on there now. And all I'm doing is looking for areas where I can see a bit of the grain. There's quite a bit on that fairing. I'm not sure I'll be able to get in there to do it. It's not like a filler where you can put it on fairly thick. This is what's called a stopper. And it's just for filling really, really thin irregularities. Little skin imperfections is all. That's actually something that needs a filler. You can see these bits are nearly dry already. If you put it on too thick, it just won't dry. I remember when I was 16 or 17, maybe going on 18, I bought a transit van, and that was my first vehicle. And the bonnet had a nasty big dent in it. There was a dent of about ½ an inch deep at its worst point. And I bought a tube of this, thinking I could fill that, and I slapped it on, and it was a good ½ an inch to maybe even more deep. And 2 weeks later, it was still absolutely liquid. And that taught me that lesson. This is a stopper, nothing more. The other thing, because I think it is cellulose based, even though it says acrylic on the thing, it will shrink slightly over time, which is fairly typical of a cellulose. So just be aware, the thicker you put it on, the more the shrink's going to be. So you have to be careful. So as you can see, it doesn't take long to the little splodges of stopper. It was dry in a matter of 10 minutes. I'm just going to use a little bit of 400 grit. I'm not going to teach you how to sand, that's silly, but I just want you to see how easy this is. And hopefully you can see from that. And now what we've got is little tiny dots of red stopper that's actually filled just in the weave. So we do that, then we'll give it another coat of the primer filler, and then when we sand that back, it should be pretty close to finished as far as the surface goes. It's very therapeutic as well. And I'll just continue to do that and just get as much of it flat as I can. So just a quick update. I don't want to teach you how to sand. I've been told off for that before. Anyway, the fuselage is coming along, and as you can see, we've primed, spot filled, well, and sanded obviously, and spot filled, primed, and it's a rinse and repeat. So I've sprayed this fuselage 3 times now. So the primer filler's gone on 3 coats. It was spot primed, it was sanded, and etc., etc. You know how to sand, so I'm not gonna teach you to suck eggs on that one. But there's a couple of things that you might not know. Well, you will know, but for those that don't, I'll show you anyway. This is a section of neoprene cord, and you can get it on eBay, and I buy it in lots of different sizes, and it makes great tires if you're building World War I type aircraft that have rounded tires. It's great for that, and you just form a loop and super glue it together. Anyway, it makes wonderful sanding blocks. So if you basically just wrap your sandpaper around it, you've got a lovely rounded surface that's firm but not hard, and it's great for doing things like the wing fairings and, you know, just all over the place. And obviously loads of water, keep it very wet. Again, teaching you to suck eggs here, sanding. Sorry about that, but there you go. That's where we're at the moment. So I'll just keep sanding. I'm about to put, I think, the final coat of grey primer, and then if that looks okay, I will start doing the panel lines, and we'll get on with some marking out. That should be a lot more fun. One more coat of grey primer did indeed finish it off. I then inspected the fuselage very carefully for any pinholes or areas where the glass cloth was showing through. At that point, I was quite happy to declare the fuselage ready for panel lines and further detailing. If you've enjoyed the video, please click like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.